Imagine a world where all students are successful learners. Imagine an educational system where physical activity and academics are combined, thus diminishing the effects of poverty, thus diminishing the epidemic of childhood obesity. Imagine a world where all students are competent and confident in their math ability, making it so that so many more students go into STEM fields. I am Suzy Koontz, creator of Math and Movement, and I dreamed of a world where students would have abundant practice at a level of comfortable success, and where they would love learning. I created Math and Movement so that we could bring the joy of learning back to students. Math and Movement is a program that combines physical activity with learning. Students do math movements. My book, The Math and Movement Training Manual, has 250 different math movements in it. These are movements that parents can do throughout the day, in the car, or teachers can do throughout the school day. So let me show you an example of one of these math movements. What I want you to do is to take your hands and clap them in front. Then take one hand over the top, take your thumbs, turn them down, interlock your fingers, and scoop like an ice cream cone. Okay, we've just made an elephant trunk, and we're going to do the elephant dance. We're going to count up to 15 doing this movement where we take one leg and cross it over. When you do that, you whisper one, and then cross the other way, whisper two. Raise your elephant's trunk and nice and loud. Everyone say three. We'll keep going. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Great job. Shake it out. So why are these movements so important? Number one, we're doing counting, but varying our voice. You notice how we whispered on numbers that were not the multiples and then said the multiple more loudly. This cements the multiple in the memory of the student. We need students to be able to count 3, 6, 9, 12, or 4, 8, 12, 16. We need them to be able to count very quickly and efficiently because that helps them with multiplication, with division, with fractions, with factoring. We need students to have that fluency. Many students are missing the counting stage. They come to school not prepared and not having enough counting experience. So by doing these counting activities throughout the school day, students get exercise, but at the same time they get the counting practice. There's more to it though. Students do cross-body movements. Why cross-body movements? Because it integrates the left and right hemispheres of the brain. It increases your focus. It increases your concentration. It really helps students so that they can learn new material. But what about adults? We can love ourselves by doing cross-body movements. If you ever feel nervous, like before a presentation that you have to make, you could do cross-body movements to help calm yourself. So the other part of Math and Movement is floor mats. So these are like heavy-duty vinyl, and we print the math and reading concepts on them that students need to know. Students jump on the mats. They think it is the most fun thing to jump and learn. Why not present an educational philosophy and system for students in a manner that the students can learn? And that's what Math and Movement does. It presents activities for students that are enjoyable and fun, and they come alive when they're doing these different activities. So let me tell you a little bit about data. We've done many different studies. One in a pre-K classroom, where at the beginning of the student, one in a pre-K classroom, when at the beginning of the study, students could maybe count to 1 or 2, but then by the end, 6 weeks later, these pre-K students from a very, very high poverty school could count to 20 and feel proud of themselves. Another study is a rural, moderately high poverty in a rural setting, and this is where we partnered pre-K students with 4th grade students. The 4th grade students were the buddies. They came down and they partnered with the pre-K. They were excited about talking with them and helping them, and we received wonderful data from that. We've also done studies in first grade classrooms, second grade classrooms. We've done studies for intervention classrooms. All the data is fabulous, but I think what's more important is to hear a story. Let me tell you a story of a boy that is from a high, very, very high poverty area of the United States. And he was really from one of the most horrible situations that any child could ever be in. He and his siblings were rescued from a meth house. And when the police officers came to rescue the children, they said, "These children are brain damaged." They were speaking incoherently. The police officers brought the children to a foster home, a family that decided that they were going to adopt these 3 children. And they partnered with their neighbor who was a classroom teacher, and they said, "Help, we don't know what to do." The boy I want to tell you about was 10 years old. They made the choice to put him in a 3rd grade classroom, which was 2 years behind his regular grade. The classroom teacher partnered him with a high-end reader, a boy that could read, a 3rd grade boy who could read, and gave him a 3rd grade reader. And this boy could not read any of the words at all. He could read no words, but he could recognize a few letters and he could write his name. And the year progressed and went on. And the teacher was in touch with me because she had been to one of my math and movement trainings, and she was talking with me about different students and how I could help her with these students. And what happened was that she had access to the floor mats that have words on them. These are Dolch sight words, and she got the whole set of them. And she went right first in the evening, before school the next day, to a tutoring session where she was going to tutor this boy. And she laid out one of the floor mats, and it had a series of 7 words on it. And she asked him, "Do you know any of these words?" And he tried. He sounded out the words. He did whatever he could, but he did not know these words. Then she said, "Here's what we're going to do. We're going to go together, we're going to stand together, and we're going to jump on this mat. I'm going to tell you what the word is, and we're both going to jump together and say what the word is." So they jumped. She said, "Here's the word long." They both jumped, long. "Here's the word the." They both jumped and said the. And they continued that process. She told him the words. They jumped and said the words. And they repeated it about 4 times. And then after that, she said, "Do you know any of these words?" How many words do you think he knew after that? 5. 5 words he knew. And then what she did was what I call the crawl and trace approach. With 2 fingers, he got down and he crawled on the mat and said every word. So if it was long, long, L-O-N-G, the, T-H-E. He crawled and traced all of those words. Then how many words do you think he knew? All of them. He did. And that's great. But really what's important about this is that when you can jump and you can say it and you recognize it there, but you need to be able to see it in print and recognize the word. So she wrote those words on flashcards, and she mixed them up and she showed them to the boy and said, "Do you know these words?" And he read them all. Then the next day, she showed him those words again, mixed them up again, and showed him and said, "Do you know these words?" And he knew them all again. And then later that day, she said to him, "You know that word long was on the mat. Do you remember how to spell that word?" And he said, "Long, L-O-N-G." He had remembered how to spell the word. And then here's a beautiful part of the story. During the day, he came running over to his teacher, and he said, "I found the word the, or long, or whatever that word was." He found that word in his reading, and he came over to show her that he had found that word. And what happened next was that he started to say to his foster parents, "I know I can learn. I can do this." Then the classroom teacher partnered this boy with the 3rd grade high-end reader who knew the words. She sent both of them down to the 1st grade classroom with one of the mats, and the boy that could read the word would tell the boy that didn't know the words what the word was, and he felt proud of himself by jumping and sharing to the first graders and teaching the first graders what these words were. And when he came back, he knew all of those words. Whether it's math or reading, math and movement helps students learn through physical activity. So imagine a world where all students excel in learning. This is possible with math and movement. Thank you very much.
Suzy's idea about combining math with movement is just outstanding. I mean, our bodies are meant to move, and making it fun so kids can really learn better reading skills and math skills. I remember my daughter, when she was in high school and college, she actually was freaked out about math. I mean, she just had this big fear about math, and I see this method of really helping kids overcome that fear because it is so important. And quite honestly, math really helps us understand everything that happens in our world. So I applaud Suzy. It was awesome, and I'm so looking forward to seeing more about Suzy and about how she can help children.
Suzy is on to something extremely important. People are different. People do not belong in a box. They do not need to be stereotyped. Every child can learn, but each child must find its own program of learning. Each child must find their own teacher who understands their need and their ability to learn. And she's got it. Any child can learn if we take time and effort. Every child cannot learn at super speed. Some have to be slowed down, some need additional work. But I know this, as a behavior specialist, once they get the basics, it may take them 4 years, 2 years longer than the average student. Once they get the basics, they're capable of passing them. Excellent point.
My own degree was in actuarial science, and I have found math skills to be so transformational through all stages of my career. I am so a bunch of believer in what Suzy is doing, that all kids need math skills. Wherever they go in life, whatever field they choose, mathematics is such an important foundational element. I applaud Suzy, and I fully support what she is doing.